Certainly there are some dark clouds on the horizon for a lot of us, and we've all seen some pretty un-Australian activities of late. So I wanted to talk into that and what we might need to do to work out how to lead effectively with all this uncertainty. If you think, sorry, my slideshow's not working. There we go. I oftentimes use this metaphor of the pendulum swinging. The pendulum swings between anxiety and complacency. And we've seen quite a bit of that even in the last few weeks in Australia, where for a little while there was probably a little bit too much complacency. And we saw attitudes around, you know, it'll be okay, or let's not worry about it, see what happens. And then we've seen recently it swing to the other side, where we've seen quite a lot of anxiety, people craving certainty. We've seen the panic buying happening, a strong fear of the unknown. And for us as leaders, I always argue that what we need to do is find this healthy sweet spot between these two swings of the pendulum, where we see trust, respect, a strong sense of connection, security, and even hope for people. Maybe another word for that would be leadership. So what might that look like? Well, if we think about for a moment, put ourselves in the shoes of employees, and most of us can relate to this quite easily. People are feeling pretty upset. First and foremost on nearly everyone's mind, I would imagine, is protecting themselves and their family. And that's sort of stands to reason. Next, we have an issue where most employees, they want to know that their leaders genuinely care about them, that they're not just going through the motions, that they've got their back covered, that they're looking out for them. They might be sitting at home for 2 or 3 days without any connection, without any conversation with workmates. But if they know in the back of their head that my leaders genuinely care about my welfare, my well-being, make a huge difference. Everyone wants a sense of agency, a sense that they have some control over anything. So I would argue that, for example, some of the panic buying has been people trying to claim a sense of agency. If I've got some food on my shelves, at least I've got that handled. And so we clearly want to move beyond stocking food to help people at home have a sense that they have some control over what's going on in their lives. Some confidence that they can hit the ground running, so that they're ready to go when things are going, and not just obviously from a health perspective, but maybe they've developed the new skills or other issues there. This is very important. Some tools for self-soothing. One of our core modules is some work around resilience. How can I maintain my emotional state, not just of myself, but maybe of my family members? And I think this is going to be really important for a lot of leaders, is helping soothe people. And last but by no means least, and this is what the image in the background relates to, obviously we're not congregating like that, but this sense of feeling connected to my team, to other people, is absolutely critical. And this is one of the big issues we're really going to have to deal with. If people are isolated, you might have 1 or 2 of your team members isolated for a week or 2. Maybe the whole team is home for a week or 2. What can you do to help them feel that they're still connected with each other? So that's what the employees need. What does that mean for management then? Well, managers need a few things. Some tools for strengthening relationships. For example, running virtual meetings. Some of you may have experience doing this. Some of you might have just attended some, and some of you might not have seen these at all. Virtual meetings present a few challenges. Things like eye contact. You might have noticed sometimes the person speaking is looking at the camera there, and the audience get to see the side of their head. So little things like managing that, managing microphones, managing people not talking over the top of each other, and making sure that everyone stays engaged. Management will need some tools on soothing themselves. So the resilience program we talked about. How do I facilitate that sense of connection? And how can I build confidence and capability in my team in readiness for when we get back to work? But I would argue that management also need some adaptive leadership skills. This is a game changer. The world as we know it is going to change in some respects. And I tend to think that there could be some good opportunities here, but definitely it's going to change the way we relate to each other. It's going to change relationships between management and team members. So adaptive leadership skills, it's all about helping you know how to lead when you don't necessarily know where you're going. Adaptive leadership is about helping people let go of the old way and be willing to entertain new ways of doing things, helping people adapt to those changes and keeping everyone engaged. Going to be really important skills for all managers and leaders over the next few months. Now, while no one would claim that this is anything but a crisis, right? In most crises, there can be some opportunities to look for. Of course, our focus has to be on the crisis first of all, and so you'll be doing whatever you can to minimize harm, to minimize your exposure, and preparing everybody in the organization to weather the storm. So that obviously has to be your first priority. But with that done, we then might start looking at, well, what are some possible opportunities? Could this be an opportunity to strengthen the culture? An opportunity for some leadership development, some online training and online coaching opportunities? Could it be an opportunity to look at how we might strengthen some of the team building aspects? There could be some skill enhancement for some people. Obviously, plant and equipment maintenance is a great opportunity if everyone's down. And also minimizing this them and us. I really am hopeful that in lots of cultures, this could be an opportunity to actually strengthen the bond between leadership and the workforce and break down some of these old things that have been getting in the way so that we can actually hit the ground running and move fast. So with that said, I'd like to open up to any questions, please. Or someone on the chat, not getting anything?
So I'd like to ask a question, if it's okay, Andrew, just around the first slide that you had up. I've definitely got people in my team that are very strongly on the anxiety side and the complacency side. Would you recommend that I actually look at managing them differently or keep a consecutive approach across the team?
Thank you, Holly. It is a really interesting question. Because the focus is going to be on the middle spot, the management techniques don't have to change a lot. But having said that, yes, what we need to do with anxiety is soothe. What we need to do with complacency is engage. So there will be some subtle nuances that we'll be showing you to help soothe the anxious and engage the somewhat complacent. I would imagine that in the short term, there's going to be quite a bit of the anxiety, but I also think that over the next few months, I mean, they're talking about 3 to 6 months maybe, we might be working our way through this, that complacency will also kick in, and it'll be important for you to be able to get people engaged. Did that answer your question, Holly?
Yeah, it did, thank you.
Good. Any other questions from anyone before we move on?